This slide is that I'm about to show you has just been updated about a week ago, but I'll go to Amazon and I'll type in the word leadership to see how many books come up. So when I did that last week, there was over 121,000 books available on the topic of leadership. Now, I suspect that mostly those are books with leadership in the title, so there may be lots others. A lot of my books that are on Amazon don't have the word leadership in the title, but they are leadership books. So there's a lot of stuff. Now, when I first started doing this 2 years ago, there was just over 100,000, so it's grown 20% in the last 2 years. Lots of stuff on leadership. If you type in the phrase leadership books, you'll get over 340, almost 50,000 hits on that phrase. So there's a tremendous amount of material around on what leadership is and what leadership skills are important and so on. So you have leadership by the numbers. 4 seasons, 5 pillars, etc. We have leadership by examples and expertise. Gandhi, Kennedy, Churchill, even Tony Soprano gets in on management concepts. We have leadership as an art form. It's a science. It's spiritual. It's a secret. So we have secrets from Jack Welch, Santa Claus, Attila the Hun. It's centered on something. We have principles, we have students, we have heart-centered, we have all kinds of centered leadership. And apparently you don't have to always be all that bright necessarily to be a leader. So we have dummies books on leaders. And then we have this paradoxical title, a very short, fairly interesting, and reasonably cheap book about studying leadership. So here's the ultimate authority, Teletubbies. Color the leader. So, of course, I'm having fun with this to make the point that there's a lot of stuff on leadership. And when you look at leadership competencies, how many of you have a competency model in your organization, leadership competency model? There's a huge amount of stuff around on competencies. So when Zenger-Folkman first started out, what you're going to see is 2 years of research. This is the list of the competencies that they looked at and are still in the database. The database has now grown to 500,000 evaluations, 360 assessments on 50,000 leaders. And so we've got data on all these competencies. But the key question starts to become, well, which ones are really key? I've been part of sitting there with senior executives, sometimes cascading right through entire organizations, where we make up competencies, where we decide here are the top competencies that are important for this organization. Or some of you may have been part of where you shuffle cards, or you come up with 70 competencies of which you then decide which ones are really applicable to our organization. Well, where Zenger-Folkman was at, where Joe and Jack started off, is to say, okay, got all this stuff, what really matters? Which are the skill sets, the competencies that really matter? So for example, some of you may be relieved to learn that there's no correlation between the competency of showing up on time for meetings and leadership effectiveness. None. There's no correlation between how personally organized and time management skills somebody has and their leadership effectiveness. Zero. Zero correlation. But sometimes that shows up in a competency, or things like managerial courage or entrepreneurship, or one actually a competency we saw was ability to see around corners. I don't quite know how that competency works, but so you get all this stuff showing up saying, yeah, but does it really matter?